Welcome, I'm Ian Baker, and today I'm going to walk you through the Coleman Lantern travel trailer and just show you some of the basic operation. The first one, we'll start right here on the outside, will be the powered tongue jack. Now, depending on when yours was built, you'll have a couple different options. You can have one like this, which is the LCI branded. There can also be a Bastion powered tongue jack or even a manual jack, depending on the model of Coleman Lantern LT unit that you have. If it's a powered unit, they all pretty much work the same. You'll have one button, which is going to move the jack up and down. You'll literally say up and down on some of the Bastion units, or right here on the LCI, one will be retract, the other extend. So if you extend it, that is going to raise the tongue up because you are extending the leg there. Otherwise, you are retracting it, and that will lower it back down. You will use this power tongue jack to aid you in connecting and disconnecting from the tow vehicle, as well as leveling out the trailer from front to back. Right behind that will be your propane. You'll either have a single 20-pound propane tank or a setup like this where you have two 20-pound tanks. You will see right in between is your switchover. You'll see right here it says supply and an arrow. Whichever one that is pointing to is the tank you are drawing from. So you'll want to point to that tank, open up your valve, and boom, you are good to go. If you run out of propane, then you'll want to come over, switch it to the other tank, open the other side back up. Just know, if you run out, that means you're halfway out of propane, right? If you have two tanks, one's gone, basic math says you're halfway there. This right here is the pass-through storage, super simple and easy to operate. It does have a key, so if you want to lock things up at night, you can. It also has an easy toggle switch here, which helps keep things closed. And if you don't want to lock it, you don't have to. If you're going to be at your campsite, you just want to simply use the toggle, so that way it stays shut and rain and stuff isn't getting in there. That's a convenient way to do it. You'll also notice right here is a magnetic catch, so that is how the door stands up. You'll also notice underneath are your power stabilizer jacks, if it is equipped with them. It may not be, it may just be prepped for them, and you will have manual jacks if you have the power jacks, folks. Super simple. You have one button that controls the front two, another button that operates the rear two. Do not be surprised if one leg comes down and the other does not. That is very, very, very common. As soon as the one leg hits, the other one will start to drop. Now, one of the things I do want you to kind of notice is the sound. As I start to lower this, just like that. So it's lowering, it's lowering, it's lowering, and maybe you can't pick up the sound, but you will if you operate it. And then as soon as it starts kind of struggling, you stop. These are not leveling jacks, folks. They're purely to stabilize the RV, so as you're walking around inside, the RV is not rocking. Right here are your steps. The Lantern LT series will be equipped with the LCI solid step system, and as the name implies, it is a fantastic step system. It is very solid. To put the steps away, you have this lever right here. You just kind of fold them up. You'll move the lever to one side or the other. It does not matter. Get it beyond the door jamb here, let it go, and that locks it into place. Obviously, you'll do the exact opposite to deploy it. Whoops, you want to, as you saw, you want to make sure the door is open or it's going to catch right here. So open the door up all the way. That will allow you to drop this one down. You will see the legs are adjustable. You'll have a pin in each side. You can remove that pin, slide the leg out wherever you want, push it back down in, and lock it into place. One thing you want to look out for is this plate right here. You don't want this to be too far above the threshold. If it is sitting up like this and you go to close the door is going to smash right there on that plate. You're going to bend and damage your door, and that's not something you want to happen. All of your Coleman Lantern LTs will be equipped with a power awning. It is an Edge 12-volt system, so it will run off your battery just like your power tongue jack as well as your power stabilizer jacks. There's a button inside on that main control panel to open that awning up as well as to retract it. And there's also another switch to operate the LED lights that are on there. Those are 12-volt too. You'll see some speakers underneath if you want to listen to music outside. Those are controlled by the stereo inside. All of them will have some sort of fresh water connection and a large 60-gallon freshwater tank. So, well, depending on the model, some of the smaller ones will be a little bit smaller, but chances are you'll have a pretty good sized freshwater tank on there. Regardless, if you are going to your campsite and you don't have city water hookup, you want to make sure to fill the freshwater tank, and that is the place to do it. Whether you do it at the campsite if they have a place to fill it, or you do it from home is completely up to you. Just remember, when you're talking about weights and pulling, if you have a big tank, if you have we'll say 50-gallon tank, it's going to be 8 pounds per gallon of water. So that's extra 400 pounds that you're lugging around with you. So just bear that in mind as you are traveling. Right over here is the Suburban furnace. You'll have somewhere between a 20 to 30,000 BTU furnace. Pretty simple. You just flip a switch on inside and this fires up. It is a direct spark ignition. You don't have to come out here and light a pilot or anything else. You will also see that there are vents right here. Try not to put any cloth chairs or anything back up against these and close those vents off, because it does get very hot and you don't want to damage anything or start a fire. This control right here will operate the rear 2 stabilizer jacks. You saw the control up front for the front 2. These end caps do pop off on the bumper. Just pull them out just like that. So if you want to put like your sewer hose in there, you can. I just recommend washing it out before you do, so that way you don't get a bunch of solids or anything gross back there. Somewhere on the camper, and this one happens to be on the back, but you will find a water heater, and they do use a couple different brands. This one right here is the Suburban SW6D. This one, again, direct spark ignition. You don't have to worry about coming out and lighting it. You flip it on, it turns on. It only runs off propane. This one does not have any kind of electric element, which is good from a maintenance standpoint, because you don't have to worry about it burning up. It also does have an anode rod, which is also great. That is a sacrificial rod that is meant to basically get eaten up so that aggressive water attacks that rod, not your tank. So you do want to check that periodically. If you own the RV, I would definitely check it bare minimum once per year. Taking a look over on the other side, you will have outside termination. Great thing about the terminations with the Coleman is that they aptly color coat the handles. So you will have a gray handle for gray tank, black handle for black tank. Bear in mind, depending on the floor plan, you may have more than one termination. So if you have a couple, you'll have to dump a couple times or get a sewer system that wires together. This right here is your power cord. It tucks right into the body of the RV, pulls out. You'll take this end, plug that right into your power post. This is a 30 amp, and that will give you 30 amp power. If it is a 50 amp, then of course you have to plug it into a 50 amp in order to get power. If you do have a 50 amp unit, I recommend getting what they call a dog bone, so that way you can drop it down to 30, because not all campsites will necessarily have 50 amp power. So you want to make sure you have some way to be able to drop that down. Pretty much wraps it up out here. Let's go take a look inside. As soon as you step inside, generally right here up on the cabinets in the kitchen, you will find your main control panel. Now, one of the things I do want to point out is your tank monitoring panel, which will be built in. You will see this will have both your gray and black tanks, fresh tank, and your battery level too. One of the things I will say is not all units have 2 gray tanks. So if your second gray tank is always empty, chances are you just don't have one. You just have the single tank here. You'll also see somewhere an awning control, and again, that is kind of like with the power tongue jack. You have retract and extend to roll the awning in and out. You'll also have slide room controls if your floor plan has a slide. And for whatever reason, instead of saying retract and extend, they have the words in and out. Pretty tough to confuse that one, so that makes it nice and easy. For lights, interior, boom, good to go. That generally controls your main lights if it does not turn on or off a light. For example, this one right here. There's actually a button right in the center that will turn that light on and off, so it is pretty easy to control. Exterior lights will be the LED light in your power awning. Water pump. You will use this if you do not have city water. If you are drawing water from your freshwater tank, you have to turn on the water pump for it to run. Note, you will hear the water pump run until it charges up the system, and then it will shut off until you turn on a faucet or something and it needs to recharge that system and more water is needed. Water heater, as I mentioned, this one is only gas. If there's an electric element in it, you will have another button right here to turn on that electric element. Just bear in mind, please do not turn that on unless there is water in the water heater. Especially if there's a water heater bypass where it was bypassed for winterization, you want to make sure you turn that on so that water is getting into the water heater, especially before you turn on that electrical element, or you will burn it up. Faucet's pretty self-explanatory, folks. Forward, I believe on this one is hot. Yeah, so forward hot, backwards cold, kind of go out like so in order to get the water flowing. Moving a little bit further, we get into the cooktop, and depending on your floor plan, you will have one of 3 different types. The Furion and the Greystone are both almost identical. They'll be recessed with the glass cover and 3-burner cooktops. The covers will fold up and back just like that to operate on both units. The front one is high output, and both units will have light up knobs. Cool thing about these is, again, you have a sparker, not just for the cooktop, but for the oven as well. For the longest time in RVs, you'd have to stick a match down there and burn your eyebrows off trying to light the oven. No longer the case. You simply turn it to the flame setting, you click the sparker, and you're good to go. You'll do the same thing for these top ones if you want to get those going, just like that. See, there it is. Want to get the middle one going? There you go. That's all there is to it, folks. Nice, simple operation, just the way we like it. If you have a 2-burner, that's going to be a cooktop only. It won't have an oven, and it is a pretty similar process to get those lit. Right over here to this side is our Everchill 12-volt compressor-driven refrigerator. If you don't have an Everchill, you will have a GE. Both of them do run off 12 volts. They're going to run off your battery. Slightly different operation for thermostat, but both are pretty simple. You'll see on the Everchill here, you have a control right there in the freezer. Right down underneath is your temperature for your refrigerator. Simply touch the set button to get that colder, and that does take a little bit of time for it to kick on. You will push and hold that button for 10 seconds to turn the fridge on or off. Making our way in the back, I do want to show you this. Most of the bunk models, if you have one, will have storage underneath, so just keep that in mind. Not all of them. Sometimes they'll put components in there, but if you have a bunk model, lift up that bed, see what happens. For the toilet, if you've never used an RV toilet before, it's a foot flush lever, so it's right here. So it has a little bit of reach, and so what you can do is if you push it just a little bit, it will allow water to come into the bowl if you need to raise the water level. If you need to flush it, you push it down all the way. Can you come here a second and show them this one? So if you push it all the way, you can see that ball open up, and that is how you flush the toilet. And see, the more I push down, the more that opens. So if you go a little bit, doesn't open at all, lets water in, push it down all the way, it'll flush down. Once you use it a couple times, you'll get very used to it. Sink, shower, pretty self-explanatory. Hot and cold knobs on there, pretty easy to use. Vent fan, for these units, you're just going to push that, and that will turn it on and off. Oops, you want to make sure you do raise that the cover up before you turn that on, or else it's not going to do anything. If we take a look right here, you'll have a couple different AC systems. If it is a ducted system, the thermostat on the wall will control both the ducted AC as well as the furnace. If it is not a ducted system, you will not have a digital thermostat. You will have like a mechanical thermostat, and then the control for the AC unit will be on the AC unit itself. With the LT line, it does come in both of them, so just keep that in mind. The dinettes do drop down into beds. You just remove these posts right here. The table itself will drop down. There's like these little feet that it sits on. Take the cushions from the back, put it on top of the table. That's how you make that up. The sofa is going to be a little bit different, again, depending on the model. This particular one is a jackknife. For the jackknife sofa, you flip it up and it drops down. To put it away, what I recommend is picking up the front a little bit and then reaching in the back, and then kind of pulling forward while pushing the front back. So you're kind of doing the opposite motion, and that will bring it back to you. As for TV, you will see that there is a spot in pretty much every Lantern to put a TV. It will have your signal booster as well. And then you will have the radio system right here, and this is what will control the speakers in here as well as the speakers outside. And that wraps up the introduction of the Coleman Lantern LT. Now, if you're looking for a little more in-depth information or maybe some troubleshooting tips, we have a very robust library available to you to make camping not only fun, but easy.